Welcome to Judaism Today, a program of Jewish thought, news, and commentary brought to you by the Chabad House of Cincinnati through the courtesy of this station. Located at 1636 Summit Road, the Chabad House is part of an international network of outreach and social programs assisting young and old with their physical and spiritual needs. Hosting the show and focusing on relevant topics of interest is Rabbi Sholom Kalmanson, director of the Chabad House of Cincinnati.
Experience a rich feeling from the Master Furrier, Stanley Rich Furs, 7534 Reading Road. Their phone number is 761-4702. Feel rich with Stanley Rich Furs in the Roseland area.
It gives me great pleasure to share the podium today with a world-renowned individual, a personality who is known all over for his books that he has written. And he's also known as being the conscience of the Jewish people. He's known as the modern-day wandering Jew. Dr. Elie Wiesel is here with us today to share with our viewing audience some of his thoughts on world matters, on Jewish matters, and he's really consented to give of his most valuable time to be with us here today. He holds many, many degrees, and he's a professor at the University of Boston. He's also the chairman of the President's Council on the Holocaust. And we are going to start right from the beginning. Dr. Wiesel, you do quite a bit of travel around the globe. You do encounter Chabad in many, many places. Can you tell us a little bit of how many encounters and of what nature are they?
My first encounter, the most important one, was with the Rabbi himself. Many, many years ago, I came to Brooklyn, to 770 Eastern Parkway, to a Verbringen. Then I had close, intimate contact with him. I spent many nights with him. And then letters back and forth. That was an important moment in my life. I even used that moment in one of my novels, In the Gates of the Forest. The fourth chapter is only about the Rabbi. Later on, because of that, I became vulnerable a little bit. I had a soft spot for Chabad, and whenever Chabad calls, I tried to respond. I've met Chabadniks in Russia. That was moving as well. I've seen what they had done to keep and maintain Jewish life, and a certain category of Jewish life, a certain solidarity of Jewish life. Excuse me. I've met then Chabad shlichim all over the world, really, from London, Morocco, and the United States. And if I am so vulnerable, meaning if I like to help, it's because I admire very much what these young shlichim are doing, especially in the small places, in the small forsaken spots in the United States, small colleges, universities, where there are young students who would surely be lost to the Jewish people by drugs or cults or Jews for Jesus and other things, hadn't it been for the fact that everywhere there is a shaliach of the Rabbi, and who opens a Chabad house and offers him understanding and warmth, and is there, period. He's there. His presence is felt.
So it's like I said before, there are two things you can find all over the globe, and that's Chabad and Coca-Cola.
I think Chabad is cheaper.
That is true. Let me ask you something. As a personality and as somebody who spent intimate time with the Rebbe, how would you describe this man? I mean, people marvel at him from all over. Politicians come to him from all over. Great personalities come to him, and everybody walks away with a sense of awe, a sense of reverence for this man. How do you view him, or how would you describe him as an individual?
Well, he's a Rabbi, meaning he's a master. He's a teacher. Whenever we met, we always had funny discussions, because I always told him from the very beginning that I will not become a Lubavitcher, that I remain a Vizhnitzer, and he tried very hard. So we had many encounters on that, but I think the man, first of all, his perception of history is amazing. His analysis of events is remarkable, and therefore his knowledge of people, he knows the person. If I could compare the Rabbi to other Hasidic masters in our literature, in our history, I would say he's not a Baal Shem Tov, but he's the Maggid of Mezerich. That means he has this sense of architecture. He knows whom to send where, and at the same time to give direction and impetus. Well, this is rare today. Why is he so great? Because of himself, but also because we have lost so many masters. Really, the very great Hasidic masters have all been taken away together with their disciples. It's an es min hashamayim, it's a miracle that he remained alive, and therefore he stands out.
When you find Chabad, for instance, in Israel, and I'm moving away from the religious aspect of it, but, you know, Chabad seems to be quite active in Israel as well, and recognized by the government as probably the only agency that they will allow to go hand in hand with them on a battlefront, such as happened in Lebanon recently. The only civilians that were allowed out on the battlefront side by side were the Israeli armed forces tanks and the Chabad tanks, so to speak. What makes them so great in Israel? I mean, there are a lot of people who try to cheer up the armed forces. There are a lot of people who try to give a little bit morale and boosting the spirits of the soldier. Yet the Chabad there sticks out very, very strongly.
I think it's a Mesirat Nefesh that these Chabadniks are displaying, but also they come on behalf of the Rabbi. They come on behalf of the Rabbi, and the Rabbi does have a prestige beyond Brooklyn and beyond the United States. There is something there. That means when they suddenly come, uninvited, unexpected, just to be with the others in danger and confront the enemy, confront death. And what they ask is something so simple. You know, at times they're even annoying. I was once, I remember, in a plane, and in the morning, a Chassid, my shoulder, would you like to film? No, I don't need him to like to film. So I was annoyed a little bit. But at the same time, I said to myself, it's true, how could he know that I don't need it? But the same is in Israel. The fact that they stop people quietly and they don't want anything in return. Well, probably that's the reason why they have such a position and standing in Israel as well.
Let me ask you a little bit to world events and to world affairs.
Chabad is world event.
that is true. It is interesting that you're saying that, because in Israel in particular, you know, when we have the strifes going on between the so-called religious community and the secular community, Chabad manages to find favor in both sides of the aisle, so to speak.
Except in Yehudi.
That is an issue that, yes, that has been a burning issue. Yeah. But in general, if Chabad will walk into the most leftist kibbutz, they will be welcomed with both open arms, as they would have been in a religious kibbutz. Right. But to world events, in terms of secular things, how do you view, you know, in recent weeks we've been going on with a lot of turmoil, as a matter of fact, in Israel, of young people trying to defend themselves, if you will, in the West Bank or in Judea and Samaria, and unfortunately were picked up, and I understand in the last couple of days officially they were indicted. Is this something new coming up in Israel, where young people are trying to take the laws in their hands because they're fed up with something, or is this simply a passing fad with a couple of people that have just blown it out of proportion?
No, I think it's a minority. These people who are so profoundly linked to these places and to the history of those places, I'm sure they are frustrated, and therefore they are doing things that they shouldn't do. But it's a small minority. I trust, and we must trust, the people of Israel, the government of Israel, the Jews in Israel, that whatever they do now would not put to shame our ancestors, Isaiah and Jeremiah. Actually, that is the parallel. I never want to know, are we good, meaning are we Jews good, if compared to Uganda or to Russia? Of course we are better. I think we should always ask ourselves, in comparison to Isaiah and Jeremiah, or to David, how are we faring? Now, I think that as a whole, as Klal Israel goes, I think we are faring very well.
It's unfortunate, however, that the world at large does view us with a different pair of glasses, so to speak. Whenever something happens in the Middle East, Israel is always on the front page versus something happening anywhere else, and not always so favorable. It's interesting that if the world would have done an act, it's accepted. When Israel does a similar thing, it is scrutinized extremely terribly. Is it moral? Is it ethical? Should they have done it? Do you have to have a commission to check out the scene? Have they done the right thing or not? We are viewed in that sense a little bit different than the rest of the world. Is it because we set that moral standard for us, or is it the world setting standards for us?
That we set the moral standards is all right, but that the world is setting is not all right at all. That's hypocrisy. I always think about it. When you go to the UN, or you hear what they are saying at the UN, it's really inexplicable, the chutzpah that these people there have to judge, to pass judgment on Israel. You know, who are they? Who are our judges?
Well, it's interesting. We just faced it this last week when Arafat officially sent a claim into the president of the Security Council to call a meeting because the Israelis have walked into one of the camps to eradicate some terrorists, and here he's crying, while at the same time a week earlier he has stood with some of his people out on a bus in Jerusalem trying to kill 35 people on a bus. That's
35. Legit. This man is committed to terrorism. With all the terrorist acts and activities that occurred, let's say, at least in the last 10 years, had his consent, if not his initiative, his order. And we have seen what they are doing to one another. In Tripoli, what they were doing to what they were killing in the thousands. And they suddenly come and give us lessons of morality. Or not only Arafat, take the UN, Russia. Russia, a regime, a totalitarian regime that keeps refuseniks and dissidents in jail. They are keeping Sakharov now in jail and he is dying. They are keeping Sharansky in jail and he is dying. These people who can conquer Afghanistan and turn the entire country into a jail. And they pass judgment on us. Uganda is passing judgment on us. Cambodia, Pol Pot is still represented in the United Nations. Pol Pot is a murderer. He had trained his young people in their teens to kill 3 million Cambodians. And they are now represented, the killers are represented in the United Nations. And Cambodia is passing judgment on Israel. So the whole thing is a joke.
Well, the unfortunate thing is that that is what society today is, and that's the system. And the Jews, unfortunately, in the United Nations or in any other part of the world are isolated as far as that's concerned, really. Do you really think that there can be a peace in the Middle East, or is this just a good dream?
No, I think there will be. I don't know when. I think there will be. We should not hasten to pass judgment on the Middle East. Should not on Israel, because we are an ancient people. And after all, really, 36 years in the life of a people 3,000 years old deserves to be treated differently. It deserves credit. We are trying. One day we shall succeed. And the prophetic conscience is there. The prophetic message is there. I'm convinced that if the Arab nations were to give Israel the opportunity to show her compassion, Israel would show it. Israel would surprise the world, because Israel is a compassionate people.
Let's turn a little bit to the east. You turn to the Soviet Union and you hear people standing and saying, well, let's send telegrams and let's demonstrate and let's do everything. Although you hear from Russian immigrants that that's not exactly the route to go. What can an American Jew or a free Jew in the free world do to help a Soviet Jew migrate out from Russia to the United States or to Israel or to wherever else it may be?
Well, I can tell you of experience. When I began working for Soviet Jews in 1965, it took us a few years until we managed to create a movement. But then it helped. If 200,000 Jews could come out, it's surely a result of the protests that we had organized. That means if we shout, someone hears. If we don't, it doesn't work. Now, the last couple of years, there has been a change in policy. Few people come out, and those who are there are more oppressed than before. I think we should increase our protests. And there, I think I'm a little bit in disagreement with the Rabbi. He believes in quiet diplomacy, and I think we have tried quiet diplomacy. We are still trying it. I'm involved in that. But we should protest. I'm convinced that if we could manage, for instance, to organize world Jewry and our friends, and we have some friends in the non-Jewish world, not many, they too are a minority, but they exist. The Hasidei Umot HaOlam are a factor that we should take into account. If we could organize a situation in which 10,000 telegrams would be sent daily to the Kremlin for a year, it's not that much money, not that much effort. 10,000. I think you would see a difference. You would see a change in policy.
But as surfacely speaking, it seems to me that Chernenko's approach or attitude is the more you'll scream, the more I'm going to take the reverse. Because with Sakharov, I think he's taking that stand, is that Sakharov wants to tell the world, hey, I want to leave Russia, and therefore my wife wants to get medical aid out of Russia. We have enough hospitals here to take care of her. If that's what you feel, and this is all that he really wants again is his release, we'll show him that we can handle it here.
Oh, it goes beyond Sakharov. I think Chernenko simply is a new man, and he has to show something. He doesn't know yet what he's going to do. There's a certain uncertainty in the Russian leadership. Sakharov wants to leave, and they don't allow him to leave. All the other things are secondary, meaning if he proclaimed a hunger strike, it's because they don't allow her and him to leave. He doesn't want to die there. And they don't want him to die there. So it's not a matter of what hospital is better. The question is, will they or won't they allow him to leave? But for us, same thing. Will they or won't they allow Anatol Sharansky to leave?
But what do they really have of holding a person like that, or the Jew who wants to leave? What are they gaining him? I mean, he's a dissident, he doesn't want them, they don't want him. It's not healthy for everybody.
Nobody knows. The Russian logic is something nobody can fathom. We didn't know in the beginning why they became anti-Semites. We didn't know then why they allowed 200,000 Jews to leave. We didn't understand why they stopped. It comes to Russia, all the experts in criminology are no experts at all. Nobody knows. They always surprise us.
It's interesting, you know, they've come up with a new one now, and that is that no longer can you actually send packages or material into Russia, which in the past has been really a source of income and a livelihood to many Jews, in particular those who would like to observe the Sabbath and not work and do things. These type of packages that came in from the United States were helping them out to survive. Now that that's cut, is there anything really that an American Jew can do to help the Russian Jew live there as a Jew?
Oh, first of all, to continue that, I think we could change that policy. You know, they are sometimes, I don't know why, but sometimes they are responding. In '79 I was in Russia on an official visit, and I had met Roman Rodenko, who was then the prosecutor general, and I had a list of Jewish prisoners. It took me some time till I convinced him, but once he made a promise, he delivered. He followed through with it. One of them, Yosef Mendelevich, came out as a result of that meeting. It was clear. So certain things, when they say yes, they come true. I think that about packages, about books even, religious books, or about matzah and so forth, I think we could work it through.
What can we do in terms of keeping them going there? Because there's quite a bit of resurgence there of Judaism going on. There's quite a bit of rejuvenating going on there. There obviously are no rabbis and teachers and ritual slaughterers and ritual circumcisers. But on the other hand, it's happening. People are walking out of there, Talmudic scholars. You find some of them, it's amazing. Can you
I know one who
respond
wrote
to that phenomenon?
First, this is the Jewish memory, collective memory. Sometimes you have a Jew who lives in his attic for 20, 30 years, and out comes the Gomer building. After all, in the medieval period, we had very great books that came out of the same situation, the great poetry in Spain, the philosophy in Spain, Yehuda Halevi, Shmuel Hanogit, Ibn Gabirol. Jewish wisdom and Jewish learning can resist all outside events. In Russia too, someone who, let's say, has been a student of the Vilna Gaon, of a student of the Slobodka yeshivas, he will go on studying, and then he stays in his Dalet Amot Shel Halacha and he works. So I am not surprised at all that the elite is there and will continue to be there, that I'm sure of. It's the others, the hundreds and thousands who need the beginnings, the Aleph base. I'm afraid for them, because there we need teachers. We need teachers, everyday teachers. We need teachers to teach them Aleph base. Chumash, Talmud, Dinim, there what we can do is help them.
Is there an active underground religious movement in Israel of teachers?
In Israel or in Russia?
In Russia, I'm sorry.
Of course
of holding the yeshivot alive, of holding a cheder alive, of holding a synagogue, a mikveh, a minyan, and things of this nature.
Of course there is, but I don't think I should tell you, because if what you know, the Russians may know. But there is, of course.
And you really mean to tell me that with the KGB and with their Secret Service attitudes, they can't really put their hands on it?
First of all, there are already many yeshivot, many centers. In the beginning there were a few, now there are many. And to try to suppress them all would take quite an undertaking, quite an operation. How much do they know? Once I was shocked once when I came to see this Rudenko, and 2 days before I had a clandestine meeting with refuseniks, and we took all kinds of conspiratorial methods to avoid being followed, and I was convinced I was not followed, and we spent the whole night singing Hasidic Nigunim, and next time when I met him, he says, "You think I don't know where you were?" And he said, "If you want me, I'll tell you what you said," and he did.
So you have a pretty watchful eye there.
Oh, they watch, they watch. But still, I think the Jews who continue to study and who remain Jewish, they are heroes. They are really heroes. And Mesirat Nefesh there is,
I've really heard a very interesting thing, and you say Mesirat Nefesh or self-sacrifice. Someone who just returned from Russia from a visit has told me that they encountered a family whose child, literally at the age of 3, was leaving home already to go to a cheder in a different city so that they can avoid the system school, so that they can have a child being raised in the spirits of Judaism and traditional Judaism. That really takes Mesirat Nefesh. I mean, you take a little child at the age of 3 already not to know parenting to go away to study.
Well, that means the parents want the child to grow up, sure, in the Jewish tradition. It's more than that. It goes very far. It's about Brit Milah, and it's about Shabbat. There are people who refuse to work on Shabbat no matter what, and there, no matter what, means something. And there are people who want it reif, no matter what. So, Lo Alman Israel, for Russia.
It's interesting that we're talking about it because there was a feeling in the time of the war with Napoleon and the Russians that felt that the Russians should win the battle because should Napoleon have won, yes, Jews would have had freedom, but they would not. Right. So let's have better this. They will be oppressed, but they'll remember that they're Jews. Let's turn a little bit back to the United States. The American Jewish student today does not really have all this hassle. He doesn't have to carry around an identification card that says that he's a Jid or Ivray, and he doesn't really, he's not even reminded. It's interesting, a Russian Jew once told me, he says, you know, in Russia we were called Jews, and in America we're called Russians. But the American young men and women on the campus or wherever they may be can become very apathetic. They are living in a home that had no Judaism whatsoever. If anything, there was a lot of hanky-panky going on, and that turned them off, so to speak, to Judaism. He's out on the campus, and as you mentioned before, your encounters with Chabad out there, he's met up with a Chabadnik. What does he really have in common with this guy? Here's a man that seems to be a right-wing fanatic with a beard and with a black hat, so to speak, and with a black outfit and a black suit, and here is a fellow in jeans with long hair, and at the time of the hippies or later on or whatever it may have been, what did they really have in common that he was able to influence him, at least to rekindle that spark of Judaism within him?
You tell me. You encountered them. I'm only the link between the two, maybe.
That's why you could see it probably from a better perspective, not biased.
Again, I think that most of the American young people today, Jews or non-Jews, hate phoniness. Whatever is phony is bad and has always been bad and should be bad. Whatever is authentic has a chance. And for these young Jews, an authentic Jew is more important than anything which is phony. And they see in Chabad, and I hope they would see it in Vizhnitz as well, something authentic. Why are they looking for authentic experiences? Because American life is inauthentic. It's so diffused. They go in so many directions, and it's so easy to be whatever one wants to be. It's so easy to live, it's so easy to travel, it's so easy to learn, it's so easy to make a career. It's too easy. We live in a society where everything is easy. Well, comes a Chabadnik or a Vizhnitzer Chosid or anyone who is teaching and says it's not so easy and it shouldn't be easy. Why should it be easy? It shouldn't be. It isn't easy. It shouldn't be because it isn't. And therefore, I believe that young people today want to give more than they are expected. They go to people and to movements who say, give us more. And those movements and those people who say, no, we shall give you, they go away from there.
Let me ask you, but again, you are a teacher, and I hate to use the term by profession. You're a teacher by virtue
by
of
vocation.
yourself.
By vocation.
Right.
I love teaching.
What do you tell a Jewish young man and woman? What does it really mean to be Jewish? Is it just because his parents were Jewish, he automatically got stuck with that, or is there something more to it? Or what can he do to re-evoke his Judaism within himself? What does it really mean to be a Jew?
Well, first study. I'm a teacher, so I believe in study. First I say, come, let's open books and study. What does it mean to be a Jew? And that's maybe the first, in some cases, the first lesson I would start with that youngster. I would show him or her that he or she is part of a 3,500 years link, and what it means to have that link, and what a privilege it is to be associated with the great heroes in history and not with the great killers in history. Because after all, there's a choice. At one point, you must make a choice. You are either on the side of Abraham or of Terach, on the side of Khmelnytsky or on the side of the Baal Shem Tov, on the side of Hitler or on the side of our Jews. You must take sides. And what it means to be in the same camp. True, we have suffered a lot, but we have always invented responses to that suffering. And we have always tried to find a humanizing aspect to that suffering and to that lesson of suffering. There are so many things that one could teach, because there are so many things one could learn. I love teaching, because I love learning.
On a controversial subject a little bit, what is your view? You know, the government is going in and out now with the prayer in the public school systems, giving the child a moment of silence perhaps so that he can be a better person. Do you really think that if you're going to allow a child 1 moment of silence a day, that he will really know that there is a creator of this world hovering over him?
I don't. It's really. I'm so much afraid of organized feelings or of organized meditations. I don't know whether it works. I believe in the teacher. The teacher himself or herself has the power, should have the authority and the sensitivity of teaching whatever should be taught. Whether the government should do that, I don't know. I haven't really given enough thought to that.
Going back to Israel a little bit, you know, we are living there too a little bit in a secular state, so to speak. Do you feel that the religious needs of the Jews should be incorporated as part of the system, or should we keep it separated there too today?
Rabbi, when it comes to Israel, I say Hineni and Na'aseh v'nishma. I don't like to criticize Israel in any way when I'm not in Israel.
I'm not speaking from a critical perspective. I'm speaking of future. Should we incorporate a thing like that, or should it remain on a separate basis?
Depends on the Israeli government, on the Israeli people, on the Israeli tendencies in the people. It's for Israel to decide what way Israel wants to be Israel. I hope and I believe that whatever Israel does, Israel will take into account our own aspirations as a people, meaning that what you said earlier, just a sentence ago, whatever happens in Jerusalem concerns you and me.
But don't you feel there's a sense of reliving there in Israel today, where the average Jew would like to see something like that happening, where he wants to?
Naturally, I have high dreams for Israel. I really have high dreams. I want Israel to be Or LaGoyim, a light unto the nations. I really want Israel to know that whatever we are there together, even if I live here. And I would like Israel to know that Jeremiah was my uncle and Isaiah my grandfather.
Well, that's a good note to close on, because it is true, Israel is a light unto the rest of the world, despite what everybody else thinks of us and despite what everybody else feels and says about us. We are a light unto the world, and there is something to gain by that. Dr. Wiesel, thank you very, very much for being with us and giving of your valuable time to share with our viewing audience. And we turn to our audience and we thank you for viewing us today, and we re-invite you again next week for another interesting and educational program. Thank you.
Experience a rich feeling from the Master Furrier, Stanley Rich Fur, 7534 Reading Road. Their phone number 761-4702. Feel rich with Stanley Rich Furs in the Roseland area.
This was Judaism Today, a program sponsored by the Chabad House of Cincinnati and brought to you through the courtesy of this station. For comments and information, feel free to write to Judaism Today, 1636 Summit Road, or call 513-821-5100. We invite you to join us again next week for another interesting and informative program. Shalom, and remember, there are only 4 more shopping days until Shabbat.